Okay. So I'm going to start recording. Hooray. Okay. So we are live and we are here with Zakia Ringgold. And she's going to be talking to us about mastering MVP. If you don't know Zakia Ringgold, she is the founder of virtual, help me out, Zakia, virtual,
Experience Design
I was so
Agency.
close, Zakia. Virtual experience design, move backstage, and business tech lab. So you can't go wrong when you have Zakia teaching you something. So that's just great right there. So without further ado, Zakia Ringo, you have the stage.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much for having me, Erica. And for anyone who doesn't know, I have been a part of Erica's Virtual Summiteers peer group for the last 2 or 3 years now, and it has been a remarkable experience. We join together, we talk about our experiences producing events, and it's a meeting that I look forward to every single Friday. And so this is going to be an interactive presentation. I never do a monologue except when I'm live streaming, but then I always encourage your comment. Screen, and Erica, I'm not sure if you have it spotlighted or not so everyone can see it. There is a QR code for you all to scan. It is crowdparty.app, which is where you're going to be going. And there we will have a couple of questions. There is a leaderboard that we will be going through as well. So if you can scan this QR code, and if you are having trouble scanning it, you can go to crowdparty.app and then you can enter the code of 76795 to join the game. I'll give it about a minute or so. Erica will put that in there for people who come in late. And that way, we can kind of get right into the meat of it and then we can circle back when we actually start the game. So, again, thank you so much for having me, Erica. The idea of this presentation is what's your MVP? And it was an impetus from a podcast that I did. And Erica was like, you know what? That might be a pretty good summiteer session. And I don't know if you know anything about Erica, but she is very persuasive. No doesn't really mean no, not right now. It's like, okay, well, what about next month? So here we are with what's your MVP? And the idea is how are you going to go from an idea to a product? And I always like to start any presentation with sharing who I am, right? So why should you even listen to what I'm telling you? And my story always starts with I'm the mom of decade twins, Nyla and Paige, who were born 10 years apart on the exact same day. And it was through watching them that I got to realize how powerful these little devices are. We are on these all the time, but I was noticing that they were constantly scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. And I started wondering how they could become the creators instead of the consumers. And I come from 20 years of corporate experience as an instructional designer. So I would work with libraries, hospitals, museums, um, law firms on turning their business ideas or their new methods of doing things into training content, whether that be instructor led and more importantly, online. But this started back in 2001, all the way up until 2020. And in 2015, I stumbled on an app called Periscope, and it allowed me to see that from these devices, you could build a community, you could create content, and most importantly, you could build a business around whatever you were passionate in. So in 2015, I embraced live streaming and my products shipped to 17 countries from my dining room with my cell phone while working a full time job and being a mama of two. Um, from there, most of my students or most of the community would ask for what I was doing in my library because I would go to the libraries and teach soap making, bath bombs, and lotions. And that's where the marriage of two worlds collided: my background in instructional design and my passion for soap making. And with those two, I was able to, without breaking any rules of infringement on the healthcare industry that I was working in, I could build an academy around Live Soap School. And so we launched the Natural Skincare Academy as well as the new Soap Makers Cookbook series, where I've self published 4 books, and one of them, the Vegan Soap Cookbook, is an Amazon bestseller. And in 2020, like many of you, we had to pivot in the pandemic. And I ended up creating 2 new companies. Virtual event production was through the beta. And then most recently, I've implemented Business Tech Lab, because what I noticed is everybody tells entrepreneurs what to do and why to do it, but nobody is that linchpin for actually how to leverage the tech to actually implement those things. And that's the impetus of Business Tech Lab. I'm sharing all of this to say that all of these businesses were started online. And I leveraged content distribution to constantly not only build my brand, but showcase the different tools that I was using. And what I want you to walk away from with this is it applies to any and all industries with no exceptions. I don't care if you're a painter down the street, a neurosurgeon, a dermatologist, a bookkeeper, whatever your industry is. Remember when you're, or as you're walking down the street, notice how people are on these devices. You get to show up on those devices without a middleman saying, yes, no, it's good enough, or it's not good enough. So I shared that this came from the Business Tech Unraveled podcast. And Erica created this as a bonus for the session. I'm not going to go into all of the detail about that because I really want you to walk away with how do you implement a minimal viable product for something that you have an idea for, something that's been stewing on the shelves. And it's a simple 5-step process that you can follow. But if you haven't already, if you didn't take advantage of that bonus that Erica shared, you can go to podcast.businesstechlab.com, and it's the latest episode, which is From Concept to Creation, Small Business Growth with MVP. So I have a quick survey. So let's go ahead and switch over because that was a lot of a monologue. But before I keep going in that monologue, I do want to make sure that you all are joining in on our game here. And if you haven't already, do scan the QR code or go to crowdparty.app and you can enter the code of 76795. So I'm going to go ahead and get us started. And this is a poll. And the question is, when was the last time you released a new product or service for your clients or customers? Was that last year, last month, you're still researching it, or in the last 3 months? So go ahead and put your responses in. Aha. Some people said last year and some people said last month. Alrighty, let's go on. Now, before we go on, what I do want to share is there is a leaderboard here. So you do want to participate. I won't tell you what the prize is, but there's also a gift round here. You have a choice whether you are going to accept that gift or reject the gift. So you can click accept or reject on your device. And this is very similar to the whole MVP model. You have a choice of whether or not you are going to implement your solution. And some of you accepted it, so that gave you 100 points. Let's go ahead and check out our leaderboard. Erica at the top. That means you are quick to the draw and you are answering very quickly. So what I want to do is actually pause this. No, we can go ahead with this. Can you plug the link in again, Erica? So then that way, if anybody joined late, they weren't able to. But the question that we have coming up, I have it paused so that it doesn't run out of time. But what has been your biggest holdup when creating a new product or service? If you were someone who said last year, if you're an entrepreneur, I know that you have tons and tons of ideas all the time, but there are some typical barriers or blockers. So I want you to share on this slide or on this poll what has been your biggest blocker when it comes to releasing a product. And we have 15 seconds for you to get that answer in. And let's see if you are among the top there in terms of your response. And we can also get a consensus on whether or not you all are similar or dissimilar. Aha, perfectionism. Perfectionism. And we are going to talk about that for a bit and why minimal viable product is probably the solution for you. Some of you said something else. Some of you said resource constraints. Whoever said something else, if you don't mind coming off of mute and sharing that, that would be fantastic.
That was me, Harry.
Hi, Harry. Okay, what was the something else for you?
School.
Yeah, so that would be resource constraints because you don't necessarily have the time to devote to releasing it and all the elements that it would take for it to be successful.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I'm going to switch back over because what you just all shared is some of the biggest reasons that entrepreneurs don't move forward with their ideas. The number one is fear that it will not be well received or it won't be successful. Perfectionism came in at the top with our poll, and that's wanting the product to be perfect before release. Is there one more thing I can add? Is there one more element that I can put in there? Resource constraints, to Harry's point, he's in school right now. He also runs a weekly show or a monthly show. So maybe limited financial resources, human capital. Maybe you're going to need people to support it, or you don't have the marketing ready for it, or technological resources. You have this idea, but you're not really sure which tool is going to be the right one to help you move forward. Another one is intellectual property. And this is something, a concern that I have personally experienced and something that it's just par for the course. And that is that someone may steal your idea. And to put that into perspective, what I have started to think about is ideas are a dime a dozen. People have ideas all the time. It's the implementation and execution.
Zakia, your sound went away. Anyone else? Let me know if you can hear Zakia or if it's just me.
I can't hear her as well.
Okay.
No, we don't hear her.
All right.
No sound.
I hear you now.
Now you know.
My mic is going.
You good now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
She don't hear us.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
don't hear her.
Oh, I know why.
There you go. We hear you now.
Now.
she can't hear us now.
She can't hear us now. I can hear you, but you couldn't hear me as I was talking?
No.
Just a little bit.
About 30 seconds.
The whole time?
No, not the whole time. That's in the last minute.
Okay. What about now?
Yes.
Yes. All right. So no echo?
No.
No. Excellent. Okay.
Yes,
there we
yes.
go. Yes?
Yes.
I hear
Yeah,
echo
there's still
from
an
me,
echo.
not from you.
It's
Okay,
her.
here's
It's
one.
okay to you.
There's an echo whenever any of us speaks, besides you, Zakia. Everybody else gets an echo, like if we speak.
No, it's good now. It's good now.
Are we sure?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to just go back over this slide and hopefully, did you hear the polling questions and all of that, or have I just been talking?
We've heard the
We
polling
heard
question.
everything. We heard everything
Okay.
just the last minute here.
Oh,
Right.
intellectual property.
property is where you, like, that's the last thing we heard you say was intellectual property. It was a fear of yours, and then that was it.
Got it. Okay.
Ideas,
So with-
ideas are a dime a dozen.
Okay. So ideas are a dime a dozen. It's all in the execution of those ideas. And what I was sharing with that is you can give me and 6 other soap makers the same 5 ingredients. You're going to get 5 different batches of soap, because how you do what it is that you do is going to be different from your years of experience that are informing how you carry out what you do for your product or your service. And another one is the fear of scaling. So not sure how you're going to scale your product. You may think it's an amazing product. There's going to be 1 million people who like it, but that is also the opposite of, or it's likening it to a fear of success. That's really what it is. It's like, well, what if it does take off? So there's that fear of failure, that it won't work, or the fear of it being vastly successful. And this is where minimal viable product comes in. And what I want for you all to walk away with is how an MVP, or what that concept of a minimal viable product is. Learn how to quickly develop an MVP, focusing on the core functionalities, and then also implement a very simple strategy so that you are always gathering and integrating your customer feedback. So this is a very busy slide. Walk with me over here to the right first. So I've said MVP several times, and just so we're all on the same page, MVP is minimal viable product. It means that you are creating a product or service with just enough of the features to satisfy your early customers and have them provide you with feedback for ongoing product development. Now, this isn't just throw something on the wall and see if it sticks. It does need to be a valuable solution that really gets to the need and the crux of what it is that you're promising. And the primary benefits of this approach, when we think back to those issues where entrepreneurs are struggling, it's so that you can, number one, test the product idea. And if you listen to the podcast episode, I provided examples for the high school entrepreneurship curriculum, the group coaching for small businesses here in the city, my community for soap makers, live soap school, Veda, and even Business Tech Lab were all done not just by leveraging online tools and all of that, but they were all minimal viable products. So you want to test your product or service idea, but you have to know what that product or service idea is. You have to get clarity on what it is that you're actually offering. Secondly, you want to gather data. So you've put that solution out there. What works well? And be open to that. You can't be so emotionally connected of, oh, I thought it was going to be this way. It has to work another way. But really listen to those customers, because we may have one picture in mind. I thought that the kids at the high school were going to absolutely love the soap making part. When I gave them the podcasting, we could have done that for 4 solid workshops. They enjoyed making the soap, but it was actually touching the buttons, hearing their voices come back. And if I would have known that ahead of time, I would have changed the curriculum. But because I now know it, I can adjust the curriculum moving forward. I would have never gotten that kind of input had I not tested it in the market. And then you want to look for, how are you going to onboard your clients? Not just what the product or service is, but what is that experience like when you're bringing someone new on? How are you going to support them ongoing, right? Hopefully it's not just a one and done, but maybe it is, depending on the product. What are the key messages? What are they saying as a result of going through what it is you're offering? And then identify those early supporters and your cheerleaders, because they will probably take your message 20 times further in areas and markets that you probably never even considered. And the last thing is to iterate or pivot based on the feedback that you get from those individuals. We have another survey, so let's go ahead and switch it over. This one is another gift. Remember, an MVP can be positive or negative, just like our gifts. So go ahead and choose whether you will accept the gift or decline the gift. And I know we had some people join late, So if you haven't already, make sure you go to crowdparty.app. Let me grab that. Here, I'll add this to the broadcast. Make sure you go to crowdparty.app and then make sure you join the game by entering the code of 76795. We do have a leaderboard. You do get prizes that are like just bragging rights primarily. I don't have a real prize, but you know. So if you haven't had a chance to join, you can do that by going there. But we have a few more seconds. I'm going to resume the game so that I don't take up too much time here. And let's see. This one took away points because maybe the feedback that you get from your MVP isn't exactly what you thought it would be. So Erica is still in first place with 100 points. And I think we do want to do this. What's one product or service that you want to introduce to your customers? I'll let you all go ahead and type that in. You don't have to be very specific. A mastermind, okay. Very, very popular. Any other ones that you want to introduce or refine or get feedback on? Go ahead and put that in there. A course, okay. Workshop series, mapping customer journeys, master classes. So all of these are very popular digital offerings that you can provide for your audience. So let's see, it's still moving. So we have masterminds, workshop series, master classes, mapping customer journey, and a relationship building course. So when we take a look at that and we put it in the concept of a minimal viable product, here are the steps you can take. Oh no, I think I broke it. Yeah, I did. Here, can you all see this screen? You can see all of my other ones, but that's okay.
Yes, I can see your screen.
All right. So the top 5 things are to identify the core of your MVP. So when you set a mastermind or if you set a core on a piece of paper, what is the one thing that you need to deliver for that to be successful? One thing. Because then we work backwards from there. And if anybody is willing to come off of mute and share, that would be great. Otherwise, I'll go on out to step 2, which is sketching out that MVP.
I would say strategy.
So your mastermind group, did you select mastermind group? Was that your product or service?
Classes.
Okay. So you would want to create master classes for strategy.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were doing master classes for strategy, how would you, what would your audience feel would be important for them to achieve around strategy?
For me, it's like sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay, for me, it's like you gotta know what you want. You gotta know what your audience wants. You gotta figure out how to get them to where they're going. And I always have the analogy of going to Taco Bell, talking to the talking box, placing your order. Like, don't go to the window and then all of a sudden expect to have a bacon cheeseburger when you're not at that place. They can't even give you that. So, yeah, know what you want and then expect to get the results that you're after. So, figuring out how to do that and get there, that's strategy.
Fantastic. So is it strategy around their event and knowing what they want? Because strategy is it their business strategy?
Yes.
Okay. So you would want to make sure you're calling out event strategy so you don't have any ambiguity and you don't have any mismatch with your customers thinking you mean one thing, but you actually want them to experience something else. So you want to be very clear on what that core MVP is. And in terms of the master class, do you want it to be an interactive class? Do you want it to be pre-recorded? What kind of time commitment do you have for the master class?
So master classes are an hour and 30 minutes. It's broken up until 30 to 45 minutes. I'll let the presenter speak. And then after that, we go into a private session where the live stream's cut off, and then everyone is allowed to ask that presenter a question.
Okay. And so it wouldn't be a constant series. It's a once and done, or are you asking them to join for the entire series of master classes? Because you do them every month.
That's right. So when we have a speaker, I try to start them off with a live stream, and that live stream's about 45 minutes to an hour. That live stream is then broken up into video clips. There's a lot we can do with those video clips, but after that, there's the master class, and after that master class, there's more video clips, emails, blog posts, whatever. And then after that, there is the debrief. How did you do? Did you get what you wanted? Did you meet your goals? What could you have done better? What could I have done better? So it's like a 3-part series, but
Mhm.
each time we're checking the strategy of how did it work out for you? Did you get what you want?
Got it. So what you just described is you've sketched your MVP. You've identified the core of strategy for virtual event strategists, I would say, or people who are producing virtual events. And you've sketched out the main components that you need for that, which is the workshop, the Q&A, as well as the debrief session.
Mhm.
And you also have those marketing assets that you're using to constantly promote that. Now, the next part is choosing the right tools. What would you say are the right tools for you to be able to do that? Or that you're already doing? Because I have an inside I have an inside eye into how you're doing it, but I know you have the tools.
Yes. So for registration, I love Book Like a Boss. I like Book Like a Boss because with yours, we use the redirect as a bonus, and you gave access to um, Business Tech Lab, a blog episode, I'm sorry, a podcast episode, which went well with what you're doing right now. Um, After the registration, there's always a LinkedIn and a Facebook event page. There's promotions, preferably every day. For LinkedIn, it's 2 times a day, and I think for Facebook, I do once a day. Um, so after that, there is the master class, and we're doing that now. Uh,
Okay, fantastic. And so the only thing I would say about that is what you described are all of your deliverables. Like
mhm,
you have them register, you have the LinkedIn and Facebook event, and then you have them present the master class. But if you are, it seemed to me, it started out with the strategy for um, people to produce their own virtual events. But
mhm,
what you just laid out is an actual strategy for people to follow when they're producing a virtual event.
mhm,
You have an intake process, you have a marketing plan, and you also have a method of actually hosting the master class. So that may be another audience that you could consider providing that blueprint for. Because what I got from there is I can come and I can join the strategy calls and I'll get a key takeaway. That's one audience. But there's another audience where you've already identified boom, 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 here's what you need to do in order to promote your events online. Get your speakers in, also share that information out. So that's another consideration for you with your maybe another MVP for what you can offer.
nice, thank you.
And then, oh, you're welcome. And then there's also the option, or not the option, the requirement to gather feedback. So for your attendees that are coming to those master classes, are you having them complete the surveys? Because you said there's a debrief. Is that with just the speakers of the master class or the attendees as well?
I invite the speakers and the attendees. So we have the speaker there to say, hey, did you get what you wanted from being a part of this event? And we have the attendees there, and it's like, hey, all the things that we said that you should expect, did you get those things? And then after we talk about the masterclass, we ask, what did you think about the promotions? What did you think about the emails? Or did you see any of the social media posts? Stuff like that, to see a full range of the whole plan. Was that perceived well by the audience? And
Fantastic.
ask the speaker if
Fantastic.
they're willing to do it again.
And then the last part of that is iterate. Have you made any changes or tweaks from the first time that you did a masterclass up until now?
Very little, but I am still trying.
Okay. Well, what I would say is just make sure that as you're going through your MVP, you do identify what is that core value piece that your audience is getting out of it. Like all of the tactics that you're using to deliver it, that's one thing, but what are they walking away with so that you can ask that very poignant question of did we deliver? What else do we need to do? And how can we improve, or what do we keep doing? Like this is working really well. I know what works well for me in your master classes is when you cut the stream off and then we get really into the nuts and bolts with the speaker to ask questions that we don't want to ask when it's being live streamed. So I think that's a really nice, neat component to what it is that you offer.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions about that?
Not for me, no.
Okay. So what I'll do is I will share an MVP that I did for, I guess the one survey question, there was something about a course, there was something about a master class. So I implemented a coaching solution, and then I also implemented a community solution. Which one would you like me to walk you through the process? Coaching or community solution? Which are
Community for
both
me is
paid
my vote.
offerings.
Harry says
Harry
both.
says both. I don't blame you, Harry. Okay, so all right, let's start with why I even recorded that podcast. So in December, I knew about all of these things that were coming up, but like many of you, I suffer from perfectionism with a side dose of procrastination to boot with it, and then that also increases my likelihood of having anxiety around the deliverable. So I was scheduled to speak at 3 events. I knew that my contract was being approved for the school district of Philadelphia. Um, and then I also had 2 contracts that were signed and approved. One was for one of my software as a service solutions, and the other one was for providing coaching to entrepreneurs in the city. And so they all said yes within weeks of each other. Not that I didn't know it was coming, but they all said yes. So I had to deliver a solution. So if we take a look at the coaching one, that one, number one, it needs to be able to scale because it's not a one and done with this particular company. So I identify, and I skipped over choose the right tools, but Erica kind of went over the tools. If you are not an app connoisseur, Business Tech Lab is here for you, but I kind of know a lot of tools that are out there. But I knew that I needed something where I could create a consistent deliverable where they would have a course, they would have the meeting time, they would have a community experience, and then I would be able to track their responses to questions. But again, keeping that scaling in mind, because if 5 other organizations ask me, can you deliver this for our group of entrepreneurs? I didn't want to have to recreate. I wanted to be able to have a standard cookie cutter way of delivering that. So I used UpCoach. UpCoach is a platform that really works well. They're constantly building out, but most importantly, it had all of the features for me to be able to deliver each one of those elements. And then I can create cohorts and all of that. So the first cohort, it was their cohort 10, my cohort 1. It went pretty well, but I realized, and very similar in the community experience, I realized that there was no clear onboarding, right? So I was putting them right in the middle of a platform without providing any direction. I just assumed if it's here, you're going to follow step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Nobody does that. They're landing in a new space and don't know how to interact. And so they got in there, they joined in our very first live group coaching. And what they said was, it's easy to get on, but I don't know what you need me to do. So then I iterated and created an onboarding video to walk them through. And then I even took away some of the components that they didn't necessarily need to receive at that very first interaction with the system. The very first thing that they needed to do was complete an intake form so I knew where they were on the entrepreneurial landscape. So identifying the core of what was it that I needed to deliver to them and how that would be delivered. Then I sketched out all of the components that needed to be included. And then I selected the right tool that was going to fit it. Earlier on, I would start with picking a tool and then trying to make it work for the solution I was building. You have got to make sure that you flip that. Identify all of your business requirements and what it is that you need it to do before you pick the tool, because then you can match it up instead of trying to make it fit for something that it's not meant to do. And then again, we used the Zoom calls when we met for them to give me that feedback. And then I also gave them a survey after each one of those group calls. Are we moving you closer to your goal? Do you have your social media content plan? Do you have a marketing plan? And based on that, I adjusted for the next cohort that was coming. So does that make sense? So that was how we gathered the feedback. Then I made changes to the platform based on the feedback that I got. But had I said I wasn't ready, I'm not really sure, I knew what I wanted as an entrepreneur. So maybe put yourself in the shoes of the person that you're trying to service and say, what would that look like? What does that feel like? And how do you want to experience that? And if it's something that you want to scale, have you chosen a solution that's going to be easy for you to scale? Going back to the UpCoach example, now that I have the bones of the program, the next organization that says, hey, can you provide that service for this group of 25, 50, 100? It's a matter of me clicking copy, giving them a link, and all of those individuals are now going to have the program. Does that make sense? And it's not just a course, it's group coaching, courses, resources for them, as well as like an intake form for them to complete.
Yes, it makes sense.
Okay. Any other questions on that? Harry says, nice. I always know it has hit a mark when you get the nice with the several eyes from Harry in the chat. All right. So the next thing is, what are you going to take action on? Let's end this round and see where we are with our leaderboard. Let's do another gift. Will you accept it or reject it? And if you accepted it, meaning you've implemented your MVP, you just got 300 points. Let's see where our leaderboard is. Erica is knocking them dead. She has 400 with a close second with Mike at 350. And then here is our last round. What is one thing you are taking from this presentation today? that you're going to do differently or move more boldly with? What are you going to do as a result of what I shared in this presentation? And I'm sorry, there is a character limit. Once clear, find the right tool, seek and apply feedback, execute. Whoever put that in the pink, it's all anonymous, so I don't know who's who, but that is the one thing I wanted you all to walk away with. Spoiler alert, nobody knows for sure if their product or service is going to be accepted by those that they want it to. But you will never know if you keep it in your mind. You have got to get comfortable with a beta version. Oh, you can't see. Darn it. Oh, my production soft. Well, good thing we don't have to go back there. I'll read off your responses. Um, you pull the trigger often is what one person wrote. Another person said execute. And once you're clear, find the right tool, seek and apply feedback. So they are all remarkable ways for you to actually commit to taking action with your MVP, seek and apply feedback, and always iterate, iterate, iterate. It does not have to be perfect coming straight out of the park. And then always remember that you are a work in progress, right? If we're not growing, that means we're dying. So the same thing for your products and services. And that's all I have. Erica told me 45 minutes. We're at 43. And so hopefully that helps in expanding. Do listen to the podcast interview if you have not gotten a chance to do that. I think you'll be pretty impressed with the various tools and how I was able to pull off something I didn't think was possible in a very short period of time. And maybe it'll inspire you too. Erica, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Zakia. I'm always very impressed with your presentation, so thank you for that. I did want to ask, would you tell everyone where is your favorite social media hangout spot? So if people want to connect with you, they can.
Absolutely. LinkedIn. I do have one more. Questions or comments. LinkedIn is where you can find me. I'm at Zakia Ringgold. And then I did include, just so you all can see, one of the tools. It's our Spring 2024 AI cohort. Just so you can see that one. But all of my links are available here at links.businesstechlab.com/MVP session.
Okay, Mike is asking, what's the link to the podcast? That's Business Tech Lab Unraveled, but I don't have the link with me. Do you have the link with you, Zakia?
Yep, podcast.businesstechlab.com. And then also the link here will take you to all of my links. Links.businesstechlab.com. What is that? MVP session? Yeah.
Yes. So one of
There
my
you
favorite
go.
things about Zakia's podcast is that it is bite-sized information that I can apply right away. And she has a lot of great tips on tools, like a lot. Okay, so we're going to stop the live stream, but I want to tell you that on the 21st at 6 p.m., Jimmy Newsom, Doc Williams, and hopefully Zakia Ringgold, if she has time to hang out with us. I'm crossing my fingers. We are going to do a panel discussion on MVP. So if you like Zakia's discussion, her presentation, her training on MVP today, join us on the 21st of this month, May 2024, 6 p.m. And I'm going to stop the live stream. So if you want to hang out with more brilliant people like Zakia Ringo, you have to join the Virtual Summiteers peer group. And we're going to go to questions and answers now. So